Well, welcome, folks. This is Jay Coppock coming to you live from the ACU of Texas studio with Vinyl Draft Radio. We are here right after Christmas, so I hope everybody had a very Merry Christmas. On to New Year coming up. I cannot believe it's already going to be 2019. I am sitting in for Kathy Watina, who does ACU in the community. My guests today, I actually have three of them in studio, so I'm going to start from my left. I have Joseph Pops Foley, who is the district coordinator for Team Rubicon, and also a dual hat wearer. He is the volunteer coordinator for the Greater Galveston County Long-Term Recovery Group. I'm not going to give you the acronym. That may be a little bit too long. So welcome, Joe.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
And we'll call you Pops throughout the segment. That's what you go by. So
that's my brand.
And next to him is Buddy Farina. I've known Buddy for a few years now, and he is the treasurer for VVA 685, which is the Vietnam Veterans of America Chapter 685 here in the Galveston County area. And he is joined to his left by with Jerry J.W. Williams, who is the secretary for VVA 685 here in the Greater Galveston County area. So welcome to both of you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Very good. Did everybody have a good Christmas?
Great
Yes,
Christmas.
sir.
Couldn't be better.
That is fantastic. That's the best way to start. I'm going to start here in the middle with Buddy, because I think I've known Buddy the longest out of the three. And it's kind of an interesting story where Buddy and I met. We were working with a local jazz group to bring a jazz festival to Galveston County, and I had seen a program at a veteran group in Cyprus many years ago called the Missing Man Table, and I was dead set on finding covers for the Missing Man program, and I looked and could not get anybody to help. And so Heather Melton, who you guys all know, and she's been on the show a couple times, put me in touch with Buddy. And I went to Buddy's house, and he had this entire program already laid out for the Missing Man, and went through it and told me the significance of it. And I never forgot that first encounter because it really set a tone for me as to how important that process or that part of veterans getting together, how important that was. And it was really cool to set that up and then to go through that process. So thank you for that. But that's how Buddy and I met.
You're welcome. Yeah, that's a big part of VVA, the part of never forgetting, not leaving any man behind. That's one of the main characteristics of the Vietnam Veterans of America. And besides that, the thing about never again will one generation of veterans abandon another is another big thing about the VVA that I really enjoyed and like to preach about.
Well, and rightfully so. I know we've talked about the significance of never leaving one generation, never leaving another behind. And there's a lot of conversation about the difference between being a Vietnam veteran and being a Gulf War, 1990 and forward veteran, when you're talking about the two most recent conflicts that we've been involved in. And we'll get into that a little bit, because I know that's a lot of what, JW and Buddy, you guys have to deal with on a daily basis. So as we get started, I'm going to start back over here with Pops. Believe it or not, all three of you are Vietnam era veterans with different parts of the military. So I want you spend a few minutes on your service and kind of what got you into the military, and then we'll come back and talk about what got you into each one of your organizations. So I'll start with you, Pops.
Sure. I'm an Air Force veteran. I was an aircraft mechanic. Joined in '66 and served until '70. Spent 2 years in Japan. Of course, that was Vietnam era, so I was at Yokota Air Base, and some of these guys that I've talked to, Vietnam veterans, actually remember going through there. I actually volunteered to go to Vietnam like 3 times. I used to have buddies that would come up on R&R, and I'd show them around, take them to Tokyo and stuff. So I always felt kind of guilty that I didn't go down there and share, some of the muck and blood that those guys did. But was glad to serve. Of course, when I got out, it wasn't much fun to be a veteran back then. It's a lot different now, and it should be different. We need to honor our veterans, and back then, that didn't happen. We lost the war. We came back in dishonor and that sort of thing, and we served. We left a lot of people behind. So. And I'm glad that it's better now. A lot of the people that serve in the military now are volunteers. They don't have a draft now, so it's a little bit different than it was back then. But the service is still the same. I missed out on 4 Christmases, 4 Thanksgivings, 4 birthdays, and a lot of other guys did too, and gals. So, I'm glad it's better for the people that are serving us now.
Yeah, and I appreciate the connection there. It is a little bit different. I was born in the mid-'60s, so I was not old enough on either side of the program for that. But I do remember the draft and the selective service all the way through my high school years, where that was in place through the early 80s, where you did register as part of that. So it is different today than it was, and it is mostly, it is all voluntary now. But you're right, it doesn't matter. Going to war for the country, fighting for what you're told, and fighting for what's right, it doesn't matter what era that is. So
sometimes I think they should bring the draft back. I think serving the country is an honorable thing to do, and I think it would help a lot of people. It certainly helped me grow up a lot faster, because I was a youngster when I joined. So, you have to grow up fast.
Well, and most of them, and there's some statistics on the Vietnam era. We'll talk. We may get into some of that depending upon conversational. But the number of people, and they said that the average age of the individual the average age of the 58,200 that were killed was 23 years of age. So they're babies, and that's amazing. That one, it's a very young young group of men and women, and two. We do have a third person in, and Pops is usually not the quietest guy in the room.
That's so true.
To begin with, so I hate that you're being exceptionally patient.
That's okay.
Over there. And what's interesting is all three of you, and I know Buddy kind of turned over the reins of coming to serve to JW, but Buddy brought in the VVA 685, and it's a tribute to not serve, because I'm not a big fan of taking credit for anything. It's you guys, and the fact that we do have Vietnam veteran groups within this. We do have groups dedicated to helping female veterans. We do have groups in there that are dedicated to helping post 9/11 and Gulf War. So we run the gamut, and to have your organization in there to represent that time for us is fantastic. And I appreciate you guys coming each and every month and being part of that, and providing us with veterans that we can try to help overall. So being a Vietnam era veteran yourself, we met through a mutual friend, Sherry Forward, through programs that she was working, and she introduced me to you when you worked for Team Rubicon.
Team Rubicon.
So start there, and you kind of wear a couple different hats, but tell us a little bit about Joe and his passion for Team Rubicon, and how you got involved in that, and tell us about that organization.
I've been a member of Team Rubicon since 2012. I actually joined through the Lone Star Veterans Association, they are actually trying to build their membership to 10,000 members in Texas, I think, this year. We were asked to, they had a emergency response team that I was a part of with the LSVA, and we were asked to go to Hurricane Sandy in the Far Rockaways in New York, because they wanted medical people. I have kind of a medical background. They wanted medical people to deploy with all the strike teams that were out in the neighborhood, mucking out houses primarily in the Far Rockaways. They wanted to have a medical person with each of the strike teams. What I found out pretty quickly was that a lot of the guys that I worked with, and gals, had been combat medics and had combat medic experience, so they knew more than I did. And so we had to join Team Rubicon in order to deploy. There were about 8 of us from Houston that went out to New York. So we had to join Team Rubicon, and then the emergency response team eventually evaporated, and then I started deploying with Team Rubicon. So Hurricane Sandy was my first one. I found out this morning that I'm going to deploy to Florida for Hurricane Michael. That'll be my 11th deployment. And one of my major deployment last year was obviously Hurricane Harvey. I was trapped in my house in Bayou Vista for like 3 days, and I was like scratching at the TV because I had to get out and help people, because that's what we're about. We're about helping people on their worst day. And so after 3 days, I finally managed to get out. I went to Rockport. I spent 8 days there as a safety officer. When I got back, when I came back, I acted as a liaison for Galveston County because Team Rubicon had a couple thousand people that rotated in and out of here that were cleaning out people's houses. And so I met Sherry Forward, and she said, you need to go to the serve meetings. And I also ran into the LTRG, pretty much at the same time. And so I acted as a liaison for them. When they saw my shirt with Team Rubicon on it, it was like, come on in, come on in, we want to talk to you. And, having that disaster response background, really opened a lot of doors for me. And now I'm actually, I'm a contracted employee for the Galveston County Long-Term Recovery Group. And so I can use some of the things I learned at Team Rubicon. Of course, there I was a volunteer. Team Rubicon actually started in 2010 in Haiti when the huge earthquake struck there. There were a handful of Marines. I think they started out with 6. Jake Wood is our CEO. He was one of the founders, and he was just sitting around. He was a scout sniper in the Middle East and decided that he wanted something to do that was useful. So he said, well, I'm going to go to Haiti and help out there because, I have combat medic experience. We can patch people up. And he had a couple of Marine friends, and they were actually told not to go because they were told it might be too dangerous in Haiti. So it's like, you don't tell a Marine, that it's too dangerous to go anywhere. And so they went. They picked up a couple doctors at the airport. I believe it was in Miami on the way, and they went. And now we're at about 96,000 members. We're in Canada, we're in the UK, we're in Australia. When I was some of my deployments, we've had people show up from Israel to work with us and train and stuff like that. So Team Rubicon really, for guys, and there's a lot of people separating from the military now, especially the combat veterans, they run into a whole lot of problems because of PTSD, traumatic brain injury, and things of that sort. And so, like Team Rubicon, it enables them to have a mission, and having a mission is very important. That's what we do in the military. We go on missions,
Right.
But the camaraderie is also a big part of it, and so they have a chance to be around other like-minded people. Anybody can join Team Rubicon. We're totally non-discriminatory in terms of sexual orientation, color, age, whatever. Anybody can join as long as you're 18. And that's what. And every time there's a disaster, we get more people. My personal Team Rubicon number is 5,343, so I got in pretty early. And I have some of the best people I've ever met. I've met through Team Rubicon. We support one another and we help people, and that's what keeps a lot of us going. I've talked to several Team Rubicon members that said that they'd probably be dead if it wasn't for Team Rubicon. In fact, one of the founders is a gentleman by the name of Clay Hunt, who was from Houston.
Right.
And in 2011, his demons finally got the better of him, and he committed suicide. His mother and his stepfather still live in the Houston area, and his memory resonates. Team Rubicon formed a rebuild group after Hurricane Harvey hit. Most of the time we would just go in and muck out houses and gut houses. And so now we actually, in Houston and in Florida and in Puerto Rico, we're helping to rebuild houses that were damaged in the hurricanes. And so we have a fellowship program, the Clay Hunt Fellowship, where we're training guys to kind of be construction managers. And so we'll have a number, I think by the end of this year, they want to have 40 houses completed in the first year in the Houston, Texas area, and quite a few in Florida as well. So it gives people a career path. It gives them a reason to stay alive. It gives them a mission to go on, and you get to help people. So what could be better than that? And so that kind of morphed into my. I went from disaster response to disaster recovery. And so the Galveston County Long-Term Recovery Group, which is branded as Galveston County Recovers, they are recognized by FEMA and the state of Texas as a clearinghouse for disaster recovery. So one of the things that I've learned, and I'm trying to get the word out to everybody else, that if you're a victim of disaster, and we have plenty of those around here, you need to have a case manager. And so that's vitally important. You got to have a case manager, and that person is your advocate. That person knows what all the resources are to help you. And of course, the long-term recovery group, we are focused a lot on the people that are most at risk, and those are families with children, people with low income, and the elderly. And so there are about over 21,000 of people in Galveston County that we've identified as being more at risk than the average person. People that don't have financial resources, or they don't speak very good English, and so they don't trust people in authority. and it's our job to help those people. And so that's become my other mission.
Yeah, we met through Team Rubicon, which then morphed into long-term recovery group, and I know that we've gone out and worked with you on a bunch of houses in this area with another member of Serve. You know, that your comment to me earlier about the number of vulnerable residents in Galveston County was about 21,000, almost 22,000 individuals, and as we've talked, there were even in the last even a year after Harvey, there were still 1,000 people. Just in, I guess, the Dickinson area, that were still needing some type of help. And I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, when we have conversations during Serve, you make the comment, you can drive a neighborhood and it looks fantastic, but because there's no trash on the sidewalk, there's no debris anywhere, but you've got it, and it's not just a veteran. It's it could be just a family.
Sure.
They're still living in squalor. They're still living in a house that's not been mucked, or that it has been mucked, and they're just they have 2x4s, and that's it for their kitchen. And so, talk a little bit about how many people are still being affected by Harvey, and if there's anything that our listeners can do to try to continue to help with that.
We probably have close to 1,000 houses that still need to be repaired, and we want to make them as livable as possible. So we have some what we call resident rebuilders in Galveston County. Habitat for Humanity is here, 4B Response, which is the Baptist group, Fuller Center is here, Disciples of Christ, World Renew. Those are some people that they bring in some volunteers, and they're rebuilding some of these houses. But the need is so much greater than the capacity we have right now. And people don't always believe this, but we're going to be working on this for another 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
We're going to go through at least two more hurricane seasons before this is all over. So who knows what's going to happen. One of the things that they talk about a lot is resilience, and we have to build resilience now. It's kind of like a boxer. It doesn't matter how many times you get knocked down, it's how many times you get up. And so part of what we have to do is make our communities more resilient. And that takes a lot of volunteers. And that's, I'm a volunteer coordinator. That's my job. I'm a volunteer coordinator for Team Rubicon, but I'm a volunteer district coordinator for Team Rubicon, but a volunteer coordinator for Galveston County. So what I need is volunteers. I've got a project set up for Christmas Day. I'm going to give part of my Christmas Day to a family in Texas City, an elderly couple actually, that have been displaced since the hurricane hit. They're not back in their homes yet, and there's a lot of other people that are living in homes that are damaged because there's nowhere else to go. They run out of resources. And so the long-term recovery group, we have different committees that are at work in order to bring these people back into a place that's safe, sanitary, secure,
Right.
and functional. It may not be the Taj Mahal, but it's a place they can call home. This particular family in Texas City, this husband and wife, I'd like to see them get back in their house by the end of the year, but I don't think that's going to happen. But if everybody, and I try to make it as easy as possible for volunteers. I did some research. There's about 200,000 people in Galveston County between the age of 18 and 60. And if I could get every one of them to give me 4 hours a month on a Saturday or during the week or something like that, we could get a ton of stuff done. And they'd also learn, putting up sheetrock and doing trimming, painting. Most people can do painting. There are some of the stuff we call low-hanging fruit that we just need to finish these houses out.
Unbelievable. Hold on to that thought. We're going to go back to a break right now, and we'll be right back at Vinyl Draft Radio. And we're talking live with Pops, JW, and Buddy. So we'll be right back. And we are back with our last segment. My guests in the studio are Pops Foley with Team Rubicon and the Long-Term Recovery Group from Galveston County, Buddy Farina with VVA 685, and his partner in crime, J.W. Williams with VVA 685 as well. As we were going into the last break, you were talking about people being able to help and assist, and you're going to, with recovering in Galveston County, and hopefully we don't have two more. I know we're going to have 2 more hurricane seasons before this is over with, if not longer. Hopefully we don't. But you'd made an interesting comment during the break, JW, so share that with the group.
Well, my comment in following up on what Pops was saying as far as his long-term recovery and the Rubicon disaster, I've had the occasion to meet some of the long-term recovery workers or volunteers, and some have been out of state, and I've got a chance to befriend them and take them out to lunch and talk with them to get a feel for what they're doing. And we even had one buddy that came to VBA, I brought to the VBA meeting, and he explained to us from his side of the fence what the FEMA volunteer workers were doing and where he was from. He was out of state also, but he brought us some valuable information in reference to long-term recovery. And that's why, Pops, I can appreciate you're going to deploy to Florida to assist in long-term recovery, because these workers do go out of state, and they're out of state for a good period of time. And so it would be nice, even if we can't volunteer our services to the long-term recovery, if we could take you all out to lunch or befriend you or get you to come and talk to a group setting. There are other ways that you can probably entice us into going out to assist in your efforts.
Yeah, and it's not.
That's great.
It is great. I know I've gone out and done some mucking, and I am not a sheetrocker. I am not that guy. And if I paint
We'll
it,
have classes.
Oh, I know. If I paint it, you probably have to repaint it. But I do remember on one group, I was in charge of demolition, which I am exceptionally good at that. So my point is, you don't have to be a carpenter. You don't have to be an expert painter or what, if you can pick up a brick and move it from point A to point B, there's probably something that the long-term recovery group or Team Rubicon could use you for. And the fact that you're having to deploy to another city is tough, simply because you're going to be away from your friends and family for a while. If the local areas could get more volunteers within there to do that, then people wouldn't have to go across. But being a district coordinator, being somebody that understands the entire process, they need guys like you to go out and make sure that it's getting done correctly.
Yeah.
So I do want to remind folks, you can volunteer for Team Rubicon. You can go to teamrubiconusa.org. Or you can volunteer for the long-term recovery group. And as Pop said, it's actually Galveston County Recovers. Mm-hmm. So if you go to www.galvestoncountyrecovers.org, you can find out more about that group and volunteer there. And then for you guys with the VVA 685, I'm going to get the when we do play this back, you'll see the address for the local group here, but the national organization is vva.org. And so folks can find your organization through that as well. And you can very simply, because it's very easy to find, go through Google and look for VVA 685 in Galveston County. There's quite a bit. Actually, when I Googled it today, SERV came up with it, which I thought that was pretty cool.
Actually, the Texas State Council also has one geared to Texas, so you can go on that website and see each chapter that is in Texas, click on it, and find out the officers and their phone numbers for that particular chapter.
And the thing, if you're listening, get involved. If you're a Vietnam era veteran and you fall into the category that Buddy said, give VVA 685 a call, because there are services, there are programs that are yours. You just have to ask, and you have to be educated on what's available for you. And so we're going to talk a little bit more about the services, because I know that's your area. Get one. Your point about the Blue Water Navy, if you're not sure, just ask.
File a claim.
Yeah, and find out. And that's where VVA 685 can help with the Vietnam veteran era, and that is just ask one of them and go to their website, go to one of their meetings, find out if it's there. Team Rubicon, we've got veterans still living in houses that need to be taken care of. All they got to do is pick up the phone or contact a neighbor and says, hey, I need some help. And I talk about this all the time. I'm not a veteran. You guys are in a very cool fraternity in my book. And I don't participate in that particular thing. Mm-hmm. But I have learned from all three of you and everybody else in SERV, and that is just ask. I can't make you do anything. I can't help you at all. You have to help yourself. And the first thing is ask a question. And there's some talent in this at this table, and you guys have life experiences that are unbelievable. Mm-hmm. And the people that you work with and the groups that we encounter have the answers. it may not be the fastest and smoothest road that you have to go down, but you got somebody that'll go down the road with you. And I think that's a very important point for anybody listening right now is that pick up the phone, text, email, do something, but get a hold of these organizations.
Well, one of the problems we've run into generally with veterans is that they don't want to ask for help.
Yeah.
They feel they're self-sufficient, or they think somebody else needs it more, so they don't ask for help. And we actually had an event in June, as you remember, where Serve and Team Rubicon were major sponsors of that event, and it was called the Galveston County Veterans Stand-Up, and the purpose of it was to bring veterans in, and we did sign up some veterans. We got some case managers set up that day.
Right.
And so we need to continue doing that kind of outreach. And we need outreach to everybody because, we run into people all the time. My first question is, if you've been affected by Hurricane Harvey, do you have a case manager? It's amazing to me how often they say no. And so, well, who's going to help you? Well, I don't know. I'll ask my neighbor or somebody else. If you don't have a case manager, then you don't have an advocate. And there's a lot of parallels between Serve and the Galveston County Long-Term Recovery Group. We've got about 70 different organizations that participate in the Long-Term Recovery Group. There are, 30 or 40 that participate in Serve. The major difference is Serve serves all veterans, no matter what kind of problem they have, whatever need they have, whereas the Galveston County Long-Term Recovery Group, right now, we're focused primarily on people that have been affected by Harvey. And there wasn't much, our case managers, when I started, didn't really, when they interviewed somebody, they didn't always inquire if there was a veteran family. And now, we're pushing that pretty hard. So I've probably got 50 or 60 veteran homeowners in Galveston County that apparently still need some work done. So that's why we need volunteers.
Yeah, and the advocacy that needs to be done on behalf of veterans is out there. It's just a matter of finding it. I know you guys, bad analogy, but you like to kick indoors, and that's part of it is that the veteran has to know that the services and the programs are out there. They just have to ask. And
the veteran himself, like you said, a lot of them are too proud, but you got to think of your family.
Right.
We had a veteran that recently passed away, I'd say in the last year or so, that didn't think he needed any help. Well, he ended up passing away due to Agent Orange. His wife now is receiving benefits that he would not have gotten had he not joined and filed some claims.
Right, and that's
so you got to pass it on to your children. Agent Orange can be passed on for generations. So if it's not you you're thinking of, thinking about your children, your grandchildren.
Yeah. Final thoughts, Jerry? We got about a minute left, believe it or not.
Okay, well, basically we have the Watch Fire program coming up in May. It comes up every year, and so they need to be looking out for the VVA newsletter report for the Watch Fire. And we also have in spring, we're going to be in Texarkana for our spring conference. The Texas State Council Spring Conference will be in Texarkana. But that will be going up on the website also.
Good stuff. I've been privileged to do Watchfire, join in on Watchfire the last 2 years with my wife, and it's a very moving experience. And you guys do a fantastic job making sure that those that are missing and the POWs are not forgotten, right, and those that were killed in action as well. Final thoughts, buddy?
Yep, Watchfire is always the Sunday evening before Memorial Day. It's held at Jack Brooks Park, starting about 7 o'clock. We set field crosses. Every year we honor the Vietnam veterans that have passed away that year, possibly due to Agent Orange, giving them the benefit of the doubt that serving their country in Vietnam led to their early demise. This year we have so far about 18 dog tags we're going to add to our Agent Orange field cross.
Not good, but it's a great honor that you guys remember these men and women that have fallen victim to this. Last words.
Sure. One of the basic tenets we operate by, and when you're dealing with anybody that's at risk, whether it's a veteran or a disaster victim, whatever, and it's one of our basic tenets is first, do no harm. So when you're dealing with somebody that's on their worst day, everybody wants to help, but you need to be cautious about how you deal with people so you don't set up unreal expectations about what kind of help you're giving them, and just stay after it like a bulldog until you get the job done.
Absolutely. I want to thank all three of you guys for coming in. If you can, like I said, throughout the show, we've talked about the different organizations. The easiest thing to do is go to their individual websites. If not, go to, you can send me an email at info@setexasheroes.com or go to our website, which is it's setexasheroes.com, and that's the serve page, and all of you guys are linked up to that. So, Jerry, thank you. Buddy, thank you. Pops,
Thank you.
And we'll see you guys again.
Thank you for having us.
Very good.
Pleasure being here.